Good morning, everybody. It's so good to see you guys today. All right, thank you. I think it's probably some of the students over there. I appreciate that. Y'all are awake this morning. Or it could be that, well, everybody in South Carolina lost yesterday other than my Furman Paladins. Hey, listen, my name's Lawson Clary. I'm the executive pastor here at Five Point, and I get to speak with you guys today. Now, I'm not tackling Revelation. I am up here for one of my two main topics that I talk about, and it's either sex or money, and today it's going to be about money, all right? But it's not going to be how you think, all right? So we're going to have a great time today. It's going to be really fun, and we're going to dream, we're going to plan, we're going to have vision. It's going to be a lot of amazing time today. And so if you're a first-time guest, listen, I want to tell you welcome to Five Point, and we have so much information going into today that I'm going to try and make sure that I portray it in the right way so that you guys can understand where we're going. But here's the cool part. Pastor Dean and the team that is with him, they just left the island of Crete just a few hours ago, and they're on a ship in the Aegean Sea, Mediterranean Sea, right around there. I don't know where it delineates, but anyways, they're somewhere out on a body of water over in Europe. And they are walking the footsteps of Paul right now, just so that he can come back and be more prepared to be able to teach God's word and for us to be able to understand the context and everything. I mean, it's been amazing these last 3 years since COVID hit, and God has totally transformed our church and the way in which Pastor preaches. Am I right? Y'all enjoy Pastor's preaching? Yeah. So, to understand the context, the history, and all of those things, I've told them for years. I have 3 degrees in history, you guys, okay? So, and I still don't know much about anything. And the great part about it, though, is whenever I think of history, it lays out the framework for what we're experiencing today. But it also allows us to understand exactly what's taking place whenever we read God's word. And that's why it's so important. That's where Pastor's really taken hold of that. And now he's teaching everything in that context, and it opens up our eyes to what truly the Word of God is revealing to us. So I just want to tell you guys, it's going to be a fun day today. We're going to get started, and it's going to be amazing, but we are not going to be in Revelation, as I said. So take you a breather, just take you a breath, because it's not going to be a heavy day today, but it is going to be one in which we're going to have a lot of fun. And so now, as we turn away from Revelation, we're going to be, just so y'all know, we're going to be in 1 Timothy 6. So we're going to be kind of close to Revelation, near the back of the Bible. But that's where we're going to be sitting today. Now, to start off with, I want to talk about just why I'm up here and what we're doing. Okay, so my job title is Executive Pastor of Finance and Outreach. But a lot of what I've done over the last 13 years of being here on staff is taking the vision of what our senior pastor and our elders and our staff, what they envision, and making it come to life. And it's not me, it's understanding how God wants to use our church towards the mission and vision of who we are. So our mission is to reach people, love Jesus, and teach people how to love like Jesus. The vision is if we were to close our doors tomorrow, the community would mourn because we are so intertwined in our community by being Jesus with skin on, okay? So that's kind of where we are going with this. Now, you'll see a booklet in your seat. We'll get to that in just a little while. But first off, I want to start off with just a few real quick just statistics, okay? And so whenever we think about the concept of giving, and I'm going to talk about finances today, I am. But it's not going to be one in which we want your money. That's not the gist of it. I'm going to give you some opportunities to understand how God can use your money for your enjoyment, for your pleasure, and in the long run for God's kingdom. It's kind of a cool concept and something I came across whenever I came across a gentleman by the name of Dr. Russell. He's a professor at Texas Tech University, amazing guy, Dr. Russell James, and just a brilliant man, and really kind of opened my eyes up to the concept of what being a generous church is all about. And so for us, you would think, man, we are a generous church, and we are. It's amazing what takes place here. As a church, we probably have 10% of our people tithe, and you think, man, 10%, that's not real good. Well, that's not, but when considering the national average is 3%, it's better. It's better. But just imagine what would happen if we as a church all understood the concept of giving God what's God's. And that's just the first part of it. And then understanding that we get to give an offering over and above that whenever we want to honor him. And so just to start off with, just think and dream with me. The giving from 40 years ago to today, and this is by Giving USA. They just released a huge study. It's about a 400-page booklet. But Giving USA released a study saying from 40 years ago to now, giving has dropped from 50% to the church to 24% to the church. Okay? So that's a 40-year, pretty rapid decline of what's taking place. So instead of half of the money that is given in the USA going to growing God's kingdom, a quarter of it is now. And that's to churches, that's to charitable organizations that are nonprofit Christian organizations, all in total. So what happens is this. What I don't understand is that what we don't do as a church anymore, and I'm talking about the big C, I'm not talking about us per se, because we do talk a lot about like the purity of being able to walk with Christ and understand and trust him in our faith walk, not only with our life, but with our finances as well. We talk about that all the time, and I see people living it out all the time. But what we don't do as the big church, the big C, is we don't allow our churches to understand what we do with God's money that comes in. And I will always say it's God's money, because that's truly whose it is. And each Monday, whenever I come in, I understand that the tithe that is going to be counted, that's God's money. And that gives us the opportunity to impact God's kingdom. Does that make sense? So when we think about all this, and whenever I'm giving my tithe on Sunday mornings, it's God's money that the Lord has blessed me with. That is the mentality that I have with that, because that's what the Bible kind of explains it to us all throughout, especially in Malachi and especially in certain places in the New Testament, that we get the opportunity to bless God with that. So, in saying that, what's happened? Why is there a 26% decline in giving to the church over the last 40 years? Well, one, you can look at and say there's not as many people going to church in America over the last 40 years. Now, that's not happening here at 5 Point. We continue to grow. We continue to see this incline of increase of people coming. We see people moving into this area. We meet people from all over the country all the time that are moving here, and we love having you guys. And we're so thankful that y'all are choosing 5 Point to come and be your family, your new church family. But what's happening is that the church for 40 years has been so insulated that it hasn't worried about what's going on in the world. It's worried about what's taking place inside the church. And we've lost our focus. When we see God's money come in, it is not for 5 Point. It is for God's kingdom. And God's kingdom is not the walls of 5 Point. Now, here's where I always say, but I do believe that 5 Point is the greatest investment that you can ever make, because we will multiply those loaves and fishes. Because of the way in which we have a heart for outreach and stewardship and generosity to others. And that's why we can't answer the phone enough for people calling us saying, listen, we have a nonprofit that needs help. Can you help us? And so that my job has skyrocketed, because I'm answering calls and doing interviews with ministries that I've never even heard of, but they're doing amazing things for the Lord. And so how can we help? How can we be involved? So in saying that, I want us to dig into 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19, because this message has nothing to do with tithing. That's the cool part about it. It has nothing to do with tithing today. It has everything to do with understanding your wealth. All right, so let's dig into 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19. And it says this: As for the rich in this present age, charge them not to be haughty, nor to set their hopes on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. All right, let's stop right there real quickly. I'm reading from God's Word, so let's take this real quickly and show me who all has brought their Bibles today so that Pastor Dean will give me a thumbs up on that. Awesome, man. It's so cool. You know, I only preach like once or twice a year. I've met my quota. This is my second time this year. Might be my third time. I'm trying to think. If it is, I'm working overtime today, y'all. And it's so cool each time to see how many people bring their Bibles. Now, it's one thing to bring your Bibles. How many have read it every day this week? You guys are awesome, man. Just keep growing, keep maturing. I've got a buddy who just came to know Christ, and he's on the other side of the country, and we're doing something on YouVersion. Yeah, Pastor would be mad at me. We're doing it on the Bible app, and we can comment to each other about what we think about certain scriptures. Technology is amazing, and I see the way in which he is growing just by reading the Bible every day. Don't stop. Dig into it. Build that relationship with him. But let's turn back to verse 17 real quickly. Verse 17, it's talking about the riches that we have, and it has one word in there that always sticks out to me, and it's called enjoy. Enjoy. Let's dig into 18. They are to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, thus storing up treasures for themselves as a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is truly life. All right, so whenever we think about this, and Paul is writing to Timothy, and he's encouraging Timothy to not worry about his age because he's young as he goes and he preaches and as he takes leadership in these churches and helps these churches move along as Paul's basically passing the baton to Timothy. But also he is addressing something through which a lot of people struggle with even in today's society, and it's the question of, can you be rich and Christian? Can you be wealthy and Christian? There's a statistic out there that's being floated around right now, and this was in Giving USA as well, that over the next 15 years, the greatest wealth transfer in the history of the world is about to happen between generations. There's going to be anywhere from $62 trillion to $85 trillion passed down through inheritance, through taxes, through all kinds of different types of transactions between one generation to the next. And here's what's sad, is that the church will not be a part of that, because most churches have no clue what can take place whenever people understand an investment into God's kingdom. But we at 5 Point are going to start something that's going to help us understand where we're going for the future, because a place without vision has no purpose, right? Our vision is to grow God's kingdom and to impact this community and beyond for many, many generations to come. Now, we'll talk about that in just a second. I got a little bit ahead. But I want us to understand that there's a huge pivotal turning point that's going to be taking place over the next 10 to 15 years that we have to understand. We have to know it about it. We have to understand what we can do as a church about that so that Christ can be glorified and so that God's kingdom can truly grow here on this earth. Now, I know what y'all are thinking, and Pastor addressed it last week. Well, I don't know if we got 15 years left on this earth. That's not for us to worry about. Our focus is on today and into the future of how we can glorify Christ. Man, if he wants to return and he wants to, just bring New Jerusalem on, come on. I'm all for it. I'm ready to meet my Lord and Savior. But we got a lot of work here to do already, and we can't stop. I don't see that anywhere in the Bible. All right, so in saying that, 1 Timothy 6, let's dig into the first part about it. And the first point that I want to make is it's about sharing. It's about sharing. Sharing is caring, right? That's what I always taught my boys. Sharing's caring. And they never really got that, okay, still to this day. Very selfish individuals. They're like their daddy, all right? And the whole concept of sharing is really like foreign to us because we are not taught that way. We are inherently selfish individuals, and we don't like to share. But what this set of scripture demonstrates to us is that we get the opportunity to share. Now, here's where the Bible kind of, it's fascinating to me because you have to understand the languages to really understand God's word. I took a summer of Greek and a summer of Hebrew And y'all would like to kill me, number one. Number two, I don't remember much about it because it was such a blur. But I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous, I think. But as I was digging through this and I was doing some word studies, there's two different types of giving that's described in the Bible. The first one is almsgiving. And almsgiving is the concept of giving down. Does that make sense? Sharing is the concept of giving out and giving through. And it's the concept of koinonia, which is fellowship in the community, but the word koinonikos comes out of the word koinonia, which means to share with the fellowship of the church. And that is the word that Paul is using right here, and he uses it in the church to the Corinthians, in the letter to the Corinthians, to the Galatians, and he uses it also, and it's used also in Romans as well. And so I want us to understand that whenever we are looking at this set of scripture, this is a really, really important concept right here. The idea that koinonikos is sharing with the community of believers. And in Acts 2 is when all that changes. From Acts 1 to Acts 2 is when this whole change of koinonikos comes in. Instead of almsgiving, yes, we are to take care of the poor, but the focus of wealth is going to be the koinonikos of sharing with the community. And that's where Paul is trying to help Timothy here understand what is going to be taking place with the wealth that everyone has in this, because there was a myth going around at that time, or almost like a false teaching of saying, hey, listen, if you're wealthy, you are in sin. That's false. That's not true. They were even battling those things back then, probably even more so because not a lot of people knew what God's word truly was saying in that. So that's why Paul is writing this letter. Now, so the concept of sharing riches is something that Paul is trying to help Timothy understand, and they also understand that this is the only way in which the church universal is going to grow, God's kingdom. Because as people's needs grew and grew and grew, you know what has to happen whenever people's needs grow and grow and grow? They have to make more money to meet those needs. Well, also, when there's needs within the community that can't be met, there's one of two options. Either the church answers it or the government answers it. And guys, we want to be a difference maker in this community, and we don't want the government to have to answer it. But we also don't want to enable people to just continue on in that. We want to help educate them with the love of Jesus and help them understand that there's a better way of life than what they're doing at that time. Does that make sense? So that's why with the storehouse, man, the amazing thing that they're doing is they're helping people up as well as they hand out to them. And they want to do even more. But guess what they're waiting on? They're waiting on us. They're waiting on us. All right, so the second thing is this. God wants us to enjoy our wealth. He says this in verse 17. He says, but on God who richly provides us with everything to enjoy. God provides us with all of it. The problem is, and I actually did an interview with a young lady this week for a school project, and she asked me, what does happiness mean to you? And she asked me like 12 or 13 questions on the concept of happiness. And I had to tell her, happiness is something that's fleeting. Joy is something that comes in the morning every day because it's in Jesus. And happiness is what we try and strive for and we want to replicate because it fades. Joy is what is complete, good, perfect, and pleasing for us, and that's what provides us the constant joy of our life, even when Paul is in jail in Philippi. As he's under arrest, he's singing and he's joyful. Does that make sense? I wouldn't consider him happy. I would consider him joyful. Those are two completely different things. And so with joy being a part of the word enjoy, that's wherever it strikes me that God's saying, no, it's not going to give you happiness. It's going to give you joy when you allow God to be in control of your wealth. All right, so let's go to point 3 then. So there's one thing that you can't do with wealth. You can't keep it. All right, so let me just break this down for you real quickly. You can't keep it. So there's this concept that you want your wealth to grow, right? All right, so we want to invest it wisely. We want to put it into maybe land or into stocks and bonds, IRAs, all these different things for it to grow. But you come to a point at the end of your life and you're like, well, I've got all this stuff. What do I do with it? Well, one, you're going to live off of it for as long as you live. But two, what happens whenever you are no longer alive? You can't take it with you. You know, we're finding places in Egypt and all over the world of these great leaders that were buried with all of their wealth. And guess what? It's either been robbed or it's still right there. And so what do you want to do with the wealth that you have? And you say, well, I don't have a lot of wealth, Lawson. Y'all, we do have a lot of wealth just in the way in which if you have clothes, if you have a car, if you have, and yes, you might owe on that car or the house or land or stocks or IRAs or any of those things, you do have wealth. And it's way more wealth than most of the world has. And so you have to understand that you're not going to be able to take that wealth with you whenever you go to meet Jesus, as long as you know Jesus. And so you can't keep it. So there's a concept here. There's 4 things that we can do with our wealth, and it's either binge, bury, toil, or enjoy. So the one person is the binge person, and they don't have a lot of wealth because they go out and spend everything, all of their wealth, so they can't accumulate it. So they just binge all kinds of stuff. And that's us. That's a consumerist society, which is what America wants us to do. And that way, everybody else just makes a whole lot of money, and you are the one that doesn't have any because you keep on spending it on everything, like $15 coffees and $30 meals. I'm talking to myself. I don't drink coffee. I don't like the $15 coffees, but there's all kinds of other stuff I like $10 sundaes and everything else. All right. Or you can bury it. You can hoard it for yourself and make lots and lots of money and do nothing for anyone or for yourself and not even find any of that enjoyment in the wealth that you have, but just worry about the wealth that you have and worry about how much you are making with it. Or you can toil, which is work all of your life and still not accomplish anything because you just don't know what to do with the money. So all you do is toil, toil, toil. You work, you work, you work. You don't invest. You just spend what comes in as it goes out. Not in a binging way, but just taking care of yourself and trying to keep your feet up and under you. But then the last one is this. And this is what Paul is talking about in being able to enjoy. And it's understanding that it's not your own, that it's God's. And so enjoyment doesn't mean that we take vacations every week. Enjoyment means that we are at a place of peace, that we are at a place of being understanding of, you know what, I'm doing exactly what God has called me to do, and I find so much joy and peace within that. Instead of chasing the almighty dollar, we're chasing our Heavenly Father. And so there's joy. So I saw this at a conference with Dr. Russell James, and I want us to understand how this set of Scripture breaks out. It's Angela Lamb taught me this. It's called a chiastic structure. And back in these days, back in the early biblical or early church times, a lot of the writers would write in this way. And so check this out. As we see, the first part of the 1 Timothy 6 starts out with the negatives of what riches does in our life. Okay, and it builds and it builds and it builds. And it talks about death and it's temporary and it's leading to community separation, and tightly grasps the concept of hoarding it, of binging, goodness gracious, of burying it. Then hidden, disappearing, uncertain. That's the toil. And then coming through, God's rich provision for us provides us with enjoyment. And here's what happens. It comes to a pinnacle of where it's enjoyment. And then the rest of the set of scriptures all about how we enjoy it. And the way in which it is, it's through, in verse 18a, it's our provisions to others. It's visible finished works in 18b. It's open-handedly sharing to others in C. And then it's leading to community connection. It allows us to provide this future and permanent joy in our life because we are not hoarding it, binging it, toiling for it. We are now enjoying it because of the way Paul told those that are wealthy, it's all fruitless if we are trying to do any of the other three. The only way in which we can enjoy it is to share what God has done through us, for us, and with us. Now, here's not what I'm saying, is that you need to go and give all your wealth out to everybody. No, God has blessed you with that wealth for a reason. He has blessed you with that because he trusts you and he understands what God is going to do through you. Now, in saying that, when he wants us to enjoy our wealth, there's two examples I'm going to give you of how this works. The first one is by a name that y'all know. His name's Solomon. Solomon, man, this dude was the richest man. Even in today's society, he would have been the richest man because of all the wealth that he had in his life. And he wrote this book called Ecclesiastes at the end of it. And guess what he said? Life is meaningless. He toiled, he buried it, he hoarded it, he didn't enjoy it. He might have had a great time, but he did not enjoy it because he didn't understand that God had blessed him with all of that. He just wanted to chase after the next dollar and the next dollar and the next dollar instead of seeing the next life, the next life, the next life that could be impacted by his wealth. There's another gentleman, and he's a family friend that's passed. He owned a big construction company in my hometown. And for some reason, he was literally the most joyful man I've ever met. He was president of IPTAY at one time at Clemson. He really enjoyed Clemson sports. He poured a lot of money into that. But what I didn't realize is that he also was one of the most giving men that Gaffney's ever seen where I grew up. He helped support Focus on the Family silently. He brought, as he sold his company, he brought 8 guys in with him a month before and gave them 49% of the company so that they could take part in the sale. He gave so much to so many that whenever he passed, it's like the whole community came out and had a story. And nobody knew. The reason why was because he didn't let his wealth take over in the binge, bury, and toil. He let his wealth grow God's kingdom. And he found so much joy within that. Guys, this is the way in which we as a church want to be. I want us to watch a video real quickly from our church that gives us a vision of where we're going with this. So my preaching time is done. Now I'm getting ready right after this video to share with you the vision of 5 Point Church.
Hey 5 Point, the majority of you here this morning get to enjoy this incredible facility and you don't remember what it was like back at Pickens High School. You don't remember the Colony Theater. You don't understand the sacrifices that were made to get to where we are today.
There were 5 of us that signed our names, signed our houses over to get from Pickens to the Colony Theater because they needed lots of renovations.
We borrowed $130,000 and then paid it back in 13 months. I can remember outgrowing the Colony Theater, and once again, 4 or 5 of us put our houses on the line to get into the Crane Chevrolet building.
I also remember a story then. There was a single mother. She had 3 teenagers, and she gave an offering of $1,000, and I know that was very sacrificial on her part.
It was an incredible sacrifice. When we were trying to move from the Crane Chevrolet building into the building that we're in now, our children in Kid Point gave over $10,000. I'm so honored that we have what we have, but the sacrifices that were made is unbelievable. And we did so much of that, not just for the adults, but for our children, for our students, because we understood that the sacrifices that we were making wasn't just for us, but for that next generation.
Speaking of the next generation, it's really the church of now. And we get the opportunity to pour into the lives of this generation. We are getting to see the impact of the kids that were in our ministry 10, 15, 19 years ago actually leading the ministries of today. Seeing the kids that grew up in those ministries now are leading the children inside Kid Point in youth goes way beyond anything that we could have ever dreamed of. It wasn't one person doing something for the church. It was so many people coming together to be able to see a God-sized dream come to fruition.
And as we dream and have watched the dream come to fruition, it's been amazing to watch from a small group of children and a small group of youth to over 250 youth on Wednesday nights and over 600 children on Sunday mornings. And for those of you that don't get to experience it, it is amazing. But our dream is over 1,000 in both ministries, growing and expanding, not just as a number, but as world-changing leaders for the cause of Jesus Christ, because we really do believe we can reach this entire city with the gospel of Jesus. And we believe it's going to happen with this generation right now.
If it wasn't for the generosity of the people that gave to the vision of 5 Point, we wouldn't be able to see what's taking place right now. But we know that God's vision is bigger than anything that we can ever dream of. But we're never going to reach that if we stop right now. It takes the church of now into the church of the future for us to be able to really see all the things that God has in store. Because we know we can't do it alone. We can't just show up on a Sunday morning and all these visions and these dreams come alive. It takes the generosity of our people of today and tomorrow for us to truly reach this city, for us to truly be able to go and save these kids' lives for Jesus.
So you've had the opportunity to hear about the past, the present with our next gen students, and now we get to talk about the future. And it all belongs in your hands. We get the opportunity as a church, 5 Point Church, to determine what we are going to be in the next 10, 15, 20 years by the way in which we practice our generosity. And I'm not talking about today's tithe. I'm not talking about how much you're going to tithe in a year. I'm talking about the opportunities that we have to grow our church, not only numerically, not only geographically, but spiritually. So what I mean by this is we get an opportunity over these next 10 years or 15 years to have a great strategic plan. And plans are just that. They're plans that they give us a guide. But God ultimately has in store for us so much. But you know who He's waiting on? He's waiting on us. He's waiting on us to provide the opportunity for Him to go to work. And I don't want us to miss out on that. So that's why we are starting an initiative called the Legacy Impact Ministry. And as I get ready to share with you exactly the vision of what we are going to do here at 5 Point, it's something to get fired up about, but also it can feel overwhelming. And when we feel overwhelmed, we're right where we need to be because only God can accomplish it. And that's what gets me excited about what's going to take place. This isn't a capital campaign. This is all about us understanding that God's in charge of our money and we get the opportunity to give it to Him and make Him multiplied so that we can do so much more for God's kingdom as a church. So guys, we're going to be talking about all kinds of different opportunities, but there's going to be 4 lanes with it. The first ministry lane is outreach. The second ministry lane is building and growth. The third ministry lane is missions. And the fourth is next gen. And we get an opportunity to impact this community, this state, this nation, this world over these next 10 to 15 years based on how we commit to being generous. Now, you guys, I know what you're thinking. Man, is this a capital campaign? No, not at all. As a matter of fact, there's not going to be any asks today. There's nothing like that. I want you guys to understand that there's opportunity. We're just trying to educate everyone on where we are going as a church. So whenever you look at our Legacy Impact booklet, and this is a sampling. We actually have everything on our website. It's in the booklet, but also we're going to be doing some workshops next weekend as well that I will be able to educate everyone on with this in a more in-depth way. But here's what I want to talk about is that I don't want us to think, okay, they just want our money. No, that is not at all what it is. As a matter of fact, what I want out of this is for us to start praying for the future of 5 Point. The more and more that I start thinking about our world, the more and more I understand that this is going to be the most important part of our society coming up over the next 50 years to 100 years, for as long as we are here on this earth, is that the church is going to be what is the stabilizing factor, because Jesus' name is what leads. Jesus is who leads us through this. And the families that are impacted within this is what's so important within our journey along this way, is that we can build a family here so that we can go out and grow our family out there, because we set the example of who Jesus is. And so I want to challenge us today to understand how this takes place. All right, so the first thing is this. You've got your booklet. If you'll open that up, you'll see that there's 4 giving lanes, ministry lanes that we are going to have over this next 10 to 15 year time period. Because guess what? The whole concept of the Legacy Impact Ministry, and by the way, side note, this is very different from Legacy Journey, which is what Miss Ann teaches. That is the next class after Finding Financial Peace. Okay, is Legacy Journey. This is called Legacy Impact Ministry, and this is a ministry that is going to live within our church from now on. And it's an opportunity for people to ask about, okay, what's going to be taking place in the future? How are we going to do this? How are we going to fund this? How are we going to make all of this happen? So the 4 lanes that we have is this. We've got outreach. And our outreach program, as y'all know, is something incredibly huge here. We help over 100 different ministries a year. Last year, we were able to give over $500,000 away within that. And so this year, our goal is to meet 15% of our budget, not just 12% like we met last year. So we're pushing hard for year end to make sure that we meet those needs. So outreach is something that over the years, we want to really pump that up each and every year to the point where we're getting to 20 to 22% of our budget is going out to outreach. The second lane is this, building and growth. Building and growth. Building and growth. Y'all, we have a 205,000 square foot facility here. We have buildings that are still occupied with retail stores. But we have to plan for whenever those go out for something to move into there. And that something is us as a church, because we need more space. You know, during this service, we have some seats in here. A lot of times we don't. But on the Kid Point side, it is crazy. We've already added 1 new room to Kid Point as well, because they are having so many growth issues, which is a great problem to have. It sure beats alternative, right? All right. Y'all are real quiet on me today, so I gotta wake y'all up just a little bit. Lane 3 is missions. Missions is such a heart that we have for this church. We've been in Tanzania for years. We just started going to Guatemala. I've had some phone calls with some people about the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. We want to expand our missions. We would love to see long-term missionaries come out of our church to go and plant in these areas and to really help the churches grow God's kingdom there. And then lane 4 is next gen. And that is our younger people. And here's my prayer for this, is that the next generation of leaders of 5 Point Church come right out of this group, because they understand where we're going, the mission and vision of what we're doing, and they're being taught that at a young age, and they're going to be able to be a whole lot more relevant than I am, okay? And that's my prayer, is that we're going to be able to have our next pastor come out of that group. Our next executive pastor, the staff, the leaders within our church, our elders, all of that's going to be coming out of that group. And so we want to invest in them so that they can understand exactly what it means to be a sold-out follower of Jesus Christ. Not just a 5-pointer, but a sold-out follower of Jesus Christ. So in saying this, there's 2 things that I need from you guys, is this. The first is prayer. I want us to start praying over our Legacy Impact Ministry and understanding. The second part is this, is how can you take part in it? Now, I want to do just a real quick, in just a second here, a demonstration. I don't need anybody to come out yet. But I want y'all to understand that there are ways in which we can use our wealth for God's kingdom now. And so as I finish this up today, I want us to understand that there are ways in which we can look into our portfolio of finances and say, okay, there's some benefit to me helping the church more than I am right now. And so I want to just give you a demonstration as to what we are going to be discussing in the workshops next Saturday and Sunday. And I'll have all that information in just a minute. So if I can have my two pretend daughters to come on up on stage. Oh, there you are. All right. Y'all are late. All right. Okay. Well, so I love my daughters, and so I want to leave them an inheritance. So I've got $5 for you, Abby, okay? And I've got $5 for you, Jamie, okay? And I want y'all to hold on to that. I want y'all to take good care of that, and I want y'all to invest it wisely, and I want y'all to glorify God with that. But there's a problem because we think whenever we leave an inheritance, we can just kind of hand it off and it's done and it's clean. But there is an issue. There's this thing called the IRS that comes in. April, come on out. And April is the dreaded IRS. April, go do your work. 2. All right, so I want us to understand April has come over and she has taken her taxes, the IRS taxes, out of poor Abby and Jamie's inheritance. So how many do y'all have left? Y'all got $3 left, right? $3 each. And IRS, how many do you have? You've got 4. So you've gotten more than my daughters have. That's wrong. I do not appreciate that. Okay? But there's nothing I can do about that. Well, actually, let's talk about this. I'm going to take that back from you. I'm going to give these back. We're going to start all over, okay? And so I've left you an inheritance. IRS, come over and do your job. But I'm going to stop you right there because I'm going to include the church into this. Grayson, the church, into this. Grayson, go ahead and take what I'm leaving you. All right. So this is something through which that we have a blessing in understanding how the church can be utilized with our wealth by glorifying God through it. And this is crazy. So you have $3, Jamie. You have $3, Abby. IRS, how much do you have? Church, how much do you have? So they didn't lose anything, but they lost basically everything, right? So it's a way in which you can use your tax benefits to glorify the church. You're like, Lawson, why are you talking about this on a Sunday morning? Because people don't know, and the church doesn't know, and so I'm teaching them. You know who knows? St. Jude, all of Hollywood, all these places that do all. The church doesn't talk about this. We need to talk about this, and that's what we're going to be talking about next week. I'm going to take the money back right now because the church got theirs, the girls got theirs, and the IRS got a little bit. All right? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Y'all give them a hand for demonstrating. But my hope is that through that demonstration is that you guys understand that we have an opportunity to be really smart in the way that we use our wealth and enjoy our wealth. Okay, and that can include the church. So in saying that, next weekend I'm having some tax smart giving workshops, and Tim Dietrich, who was here back in May, is going to be here again this coming weekend. And we had about 40 families go through it last time. We've got all kinds of opportunities. Also, we've got one-on-one times where you can meet with me and Tim. Actually, that would be 2-on-1 times with me and Tim. Just see me out in the lobby area, and I can get you signed up for that. But you can go to fivepoint.tv/Legacy Saturday or Legacy Sunday. We will be providing lunch at those as well, so don't worry about that. We'll take care of your tummies. And we will be there to answer questions. I want to encourage everybody to get signed up for this. But the most important thing I want you to realize is that we are to enjoy our wealth by giving God the glory through it. That's how you find true enjoyment whenever God has blessed you with the wealth that you have. All right? It was as simple a message as you get because y'all need that after Revelation the last few weeks. And guess what? It's going to be starting again in a few weeks, all right? But really take this to heart. Take that home, study it, go to our website and read the full booklet because I've got a whole write-up of what our vision is as a church. Let's pray. Father, we love you so much. God, we praise you, Father, for today, and I thank you for the opportunity of just being able to share the vision of what's going to take place for the future of 5 Point. Lord, we love you so much. God, I pray that you just impact our hearts, Father, through this Legacy Impact Ministry, Lord. We love you, we praise you, and we thank you. Amen.